look at the time, where does it go? So much to craft, so much to sew. Time is ticking, there's a buzz in the air. Need to get ready, no time to spare.
Good morning, gifted crafters. It's crafting time.
Worries on my mind, it's been a tough week. My life feels a void, there's something that I need. My supplies on the table, I grab a comfy seat. I need to craft to put my mind at ease. Crafting changed my life, it mends my soul. In my happy space, I'm in full control. It's crafting time, craft my troubles away. Give me a world of color to brighten up my day. Crafting videos on, searching what I can do. Sipping on my drink, feeling inspired and new. Crafting's good for the soul, it's so true. Bringing beauty into the world through. As I craft, my spirit starts to climb. It's not just a pastime, it's a state of mind. It's more than just a hobby, it's a way of life. I expressed myself, everything is feeling just right. It changed my life, it mends my soul. In my happy space, I'm in control. It's crafting time, craft my troubles away. Give me a world of color to brighten up my day. Crafting videos on, searching what I can do. Sipping on my drink, feeling inspired and new.
Live from the Sunshine State in Miami, Florida, here is the Gifted Crafters Morning Show with Nancy.
Good time. Ooh, time to get our craft on. Ooh, time to have fun. Ooh, time to feel good.
Good morning, Gifted Crafters, and welcome to the Gifted Crafters Morning Show. Good morning out there. Alrighty, I see people in the chat tuning in from all over the place. We've got people from Maryland. We have San Antonio, Texas. I see Virginia. I see, let's see here. We've got our friends from Canada. Hello, good morning again. How are you? Alrighty, thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate all of your support. Just a fun day to end the week, right? It is Friday. Yes, it is TGIF, guys. Yay! Lots and lots of fun with that. So we can now relax because the week is just about over. And it's time to just kind of kick back and, enjoy the rest of your day. And then you have the whole weekend to craft and do all kinds of fun things. Alrighty, Louisiana, good morning. It's a rainy day over there. Hey, Paula B, you're from South Florida. Well, hello, neighbor. I'm in Miami, Florida. How are you? So today is a little bit humid, to say the least. Very, very hot outside with our weather here. Hey, Roz from Australia, thanks for joining. Awesome. We've got Illinois in here as well. Louisiana, Good morning. Good morning. Yes. Awesome. Yay. Everyone nice and perky this morning. So thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support that I'm getting for this channel. Thank you so much. This really means a lot to me and it really helps me out a lot. So if you enjoy the content, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing so that you can be with us on a daily basis, because we are on Monday through Friday on this morning show, and you know, we do all kinds of fun things. So of course we've got to have our toast of the day. So if you have a little drink that you have in the morning, whether it be coffee, soda, water, tea, juice, whatever it is that you have in the morning, there's no judgment here. Go ahead and raise a glass and let's give a toast for our day today. I like to have my little ice water since I am in South Florida and it is very, very hot here. So water, water, water for me, and for you, whatever it is that you're having, go ahead and give yourself a toast. I'm gonna go ahead and drink a sip myself. Okay, I stole a couple of sips, right? I was really thirsty this morning. So give yourself a little toast. Guys, if you don't have a mug, they are available. They are in my shop. Let's go ahead and you can get them if you want to. But let me go ahead and pour you a cup as well, because I'm sure you are pretty thirsty. So let's go ahead and give yourself a cup of coffee. I guess 1 lump or 2, you let me know. Guys, it's all virtual here. It's just all for fun. And we just like to have our little drinks. And of course, we can't have our drinks without our snacks. Every virtual retreat has all kinds of goodies. So food truck is back, guys. I know you've been asking for it. So go ahead and we'll roll that food truck in. Yes, we've got all kinds of things on the food truck. And it's Friday, so we have some special donuts on there too. So don't forget the donuts. And of course, yes, we have our Friday unicorn walking across. We've got the coffee, tea, donuts, muffins, and anything you would like. We also have some stuff for the healthy people out there. So we've got the kale and the carrots so you can make your juices. Alrighty, we've got all the fun stuff out of the way. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, 2 please for you, no problem. Okay. Alrighty, so that's our food truck, and we've got our snacks and we've got all our stuff, and we're in our cozy little spots. So we are ready to start our day. So what are we going to be talking about? Well, today is the last day, and if you're tuning in for the first time, we've been doing Christmas in July, and we've been working on our really adorable little quilt here. And this is a quilt that can be done on your 5x7 machine. If you have a embroidery machine that has a hoop of 5x7, you can do that. And then we've been kind of working on doing this together, and we've been sharing all kinds of tips and techniques and things to build this out. So it's been a lot of fun, but we're right in that tail end. You guys helped me yesterday pick out the backing. So here it is. This is the backing that was selected based off of the poll that we did yesterday. So we've got the nice green solid color here that we did. So I think it looks really good. And I decided, instead of doing a separate binding, what I decided to do was I went ahead and brought the backing to the front and made that part of the binding as well. Oh, Cindy says, oh, you bought or found green fabric. Yay. Yeah, so this is, I actually had this one in my stash. So this one was good. I had enough. I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough, but I ended up having enough. So I went ahead and used this. And then I brought the backing over to the front. So I'm binding it as well over here. So I went ahead and I turned it over, and it is about 1 inch in the top. But we're going to get into a couple of little things that I did yesterday as well. And I'm going to show you guys how to fix a mistake that was on here after it was already sewn into the row. Yes, it is possible, even though it's already anchored down. And we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to show you what the mistake looks like, because we did take a little picture of it, and I'm going to show you how I was able to fix it. But before we do all of that, let's go over to our crafting news. I have a couple of things that I want to make you guys aware of in case you're in the area. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and do that. First, we're going to go over to a small little group that's called the Charlie's Angels Quilting Group, and they've donated their 2,000th handmade quilt. 2,000, guys, can you imagine that? And they donated it to the United, excuse me, I have a little frog there. Let me grab a sip. Okay, to the United Hospice Service in Michigan. Oh boy. Yeah, my throat is going, I guess. It's Friday, guys. It's the United Hospice Service in Michigan. And these quilts are given to patients that are receiving end of care life. It's just a soft reminder that they are loved, seen, and not alone. The group was started back in 2007 by Brenda Miller in memory of her brother, Charlie. And after he passed away, her family received a quilt from the hospice team. And that really touched them really deeply. And so she decided to pay it forward. And so she did that 2,000 times. So each quilt is unique, and they stitch them out, and it comes with a very sweet little label that says, "May this blanket bring you peace and comfort." And the hospice nurses even try to match the colors or the themes to each patient's hobbies or favorite things. And they sometimes even honor military service. So I thought that was really touching for them to do. Brenda says as long as her hands can sew, she's not stopping anytime soon. And the best part, you don't need to be an expert to help out. You can tie a knot and you can just join in. So I thought that was a beautiful story on how someone can really help someone going through a hard time and really put that remembrance, because then the family can kind of keep that quilt and kind of remember that person. So really, really touching. I thought that was just a beautiful story. Okay, so we're going to head over now to the 5th annual Quilting in the Mountain Shop Hop that's happening right now from July the 19th. And this is in Eastern Kentucky. So if you're in that area, you can check that out. They've got 5 charming local quilt shops that have teamed up, and they're hosting a stitching adventure, including Sew in Love in Prestonburg, Grands in Paintsville, Bridget's Quilting and Fabric Shop, Quilter's Playhouse in Ulysses, and the Appalachian Quilt and Craft in Hazard. Wow, each shop has their own personality, patterns, and projects to spark your imagination. So that's going to be pretty cool. So here's how it works. What you do is you visit each shop and you pick up a special quilt block kit and collect stamps in your passport along the way. And when you put them all together, you're going to get a surprise. You get a quilt that tells the story of the mountains and the makers who live there. So I thought that was pretty cool. And if you collect all 5 blocks, you'll be entered to win a Baby Lock sewing machine. Yeah, pretty cool, huh? Plus, you're going to get a chance to win 5 $25 gift cards, for one from each participating shop. So pretty cool. If you're in the area in Eastern Kentucky, you can plan a nice little weekend there to get some quilting fun in. So just grab a friend or two to do that. Okay, and then one final story for my people out there in Texas, in Kernville, Texas. Many of the families, of course, have gotten hit really hard by all of the flooding. So it's really a hard time for them, especially for the kids. But a small business out of San Antonio that's called Twin Stitches is doing something to help out, and that's really truly beautiful for them. They've launched a project that's called A Stitch of Kindness, And here's the idea. They're asking crochet artists to make and donate soft, snuggly, handmade stuffies, like little plush animals and characters. And that's going to help bring a little bit of comfort and joy to all of the children and families that have lost so much. So the yarn hugs will be delivered to the Salvation Army, churches and shelters on July the 26th. And if you want to help, all the stuffies need to be in by July the 23rd. You can message them directly on Instagram at Twin Stitches CO Company, and to get involved. And if you don't crochet, if you just share the post, that will help make a big difference as well. So it's just a nice reminder and to help people out that are going through a really hard time. So that is our crafting news. And if you're in any one of those areas and decide to help out, take pictures and post it on our Facebook group, because we love to see that and keep kind of all integrated. And you know, we like to keep our community going and see what everyone's doing to help out. Yeah, you've never heard of that. Yeah, and I believe, Jenny, you're in that area. So yeah, that's pretty cool, huh? So awesome. I know that maybe you can kind of see what's going on in your area and help out as well. Alrighty, so we are back now and we're in that final stage. So let's bring our project back in here. And let's talk about what happened here. So yesterday when we met, we kind of have, whoop, I dropped a little clip there. We kind of were looking at this and we had one last row to go. So we had this bottom layer here of sashing that needed to be done and put onto the quilt. So I went ahead and I sewed it, and I'm going to kind of tilt this to the side a little bit just to make it a little bit easier here. This row right here, they always say the last one is the stickler, right? That's the one that really will get you, right? So we've done all the other pieces, and all I had to do was do the last row, attach them going across, and then attach it to the actual quilt. So of course, I was busy doing other things, and I was just, you know, going about sewing it, and went ahead and did the strip, and that came out fine. And then I went ahead and sewed it, and didn't really look really well to see if I had hit my points or not. And so I just kind of kept going, and then was dealing with the backing and the binding and all of that. And it wasn't until after I've stitched everything in place that I realized one of these cornerstones were not lining up correctly. And so what I ended up doing was I was having to make a fix, because it wasn't too bad, but it was bothering me. You know, when you get those little mistakes that are just staring at you, you can't look at the project because you keep staring at that one little place where you know you have a mistake, and it just bugs you to death, right? So I did have one of those, and so I decided I'm going to go in and try to fix it, even though it's already sewn all together and it was already in the row. So let's bring up the little picture that shows the mistake. There we go. And so you'll see with the little arrow, we're showing that corner, and you see the gap between the red sashing and the green cornerstone. There was a gap that probably, I don't know if it's a whole 1/4 inch, kind of, it felt like it to me. Maybe it's not as bad, but I'd say maybe 1/8 of an inch, but it was noticeable to me. And it's something that I just didn't want to leave in the quilt. So I had that gap where it did not line up. However, if you look at the other side of the cornerstone, one side lines up just fine. The other side did not. And so I can't just go in and restitch. Yeah, there we go. So you see the left-hand side of that cornerstone lines up vertically. And it lines up to the edge of that green cornerstone. But the right-hand side was off, right? Which means that my sashing probably got a little skinnier than it was supposed to be, right? So if I could have gone in and I could have undid the sashing and make the sashing actually thicker, right? But then that throws off this whole thing that was already sewn. So that wouldn't be a good way of doing it. So one way is, you know, you can take this and widen it so that it would meet, right? That's how it initially should have been. But because all of this had already been sewn, I mean, the complete quilt was already sewn, I had to figure out a different way to fix this. So what I ended up doing was I took my seam ripper and I undid this part right here. I undid the stitches here, and then I undid the stitches here. So I'm basically releasing this cornerstone out of the quilt completely. So I just took it off completely. Oh no, Flo, you cut your finger off with the rotary cutter yesterday again. Oh no, I have a glove, but got out of the habit of using it. Oh no, so sorry to hear that, Flo. Ouch. Well, I'm glad you're okay, but my gosh, Flo, be very careful. Wear those gloves. Yeah, those things are sharp. You got to be really careful with those, especially if you keep changing your blade, and you know, they can get really sharp and sometimes slip right out of your hand. So yeah, very careful, guys. And if you have kids around, make sure that those rotary blades have the safety on, or you keep them away from little hands that like to take your stuff. So yeah, be really careful. I'm glad you're okay, Flo. All right, so I took this green cornerstone off completely, and so I had to figure out a way where I can make the cornerstone look like it's lined up here, but not take away the actual design that's on the cornerstone, because we have the little X here, right? So what I ended up doing is I undid, remember we talked about the placement line and how you can use water-soluble thread on the placement line, right? So got that a little bit too late for this project, but I do, like I said, I'm making 2 others, so I've got to make 2 more of these. So this is the water-soluble stable thread that can be used for this, and I think for the 2nd and 3rd quilt I will be using this thread, so I may need to get some more because I don't think this will be enough for the project. But what I ended up doing is I went into the quilt and I removed the placement line stitches that was on the red sashing here. I just hand picked it out with my seam ripper, got rid of this line, and I expanded the red fabric and pulled it out a little bit more so that it would line up right up against that corner. Okay, did that on both sides. Then in order for me to get it back and lined up perfectly, I went ahead and I took my little glue stick, just some washable glue. Okay, this is the Elmer's what is this, washable school glue. If you have just regular glue, let me see here, like an Elmer's glue, school glue, any of this will work. Just any type of glue, very, very little that you're doing on here. So just take this glue stick. This is the one that I used. And all I did was dab a little bit of glue onto the back side of the sashing, on the back side of this sashing. And then I took the cornerstone and I slipped it underneath the two sashings that were up. Slipped that underneath it and lined up my line right here. So I had to make sure that I was vertical all the way across, that the line was still coming across vertically. Slipped it underneath there, and then I pressed it down and took my iron and just hit it with my iron so that everything would just stay in place. Okay. Then once I had that in place, then I went ahead and I just hand stitched with invisible thread. And this is the brand that I use. This is the Sulky invisible thread. Can we put the desk cam? There we go. We've got Sulky invisible thread. This is what I used. Now, it's a little difficult to work with invisible thread, I can tell you. But this is what I use to kind of hand stitch this little piece. Oh, Krista says, I store my glue sticks in the fridge so they don't dry up so fast. Huh. Okay. That's a nice tip. Need to make sure it's washable school glue. Yeah. We've got this one here. It is washable. And then the glue stick is washable as well. Let's see if you can see that. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want like permanent glue on there. Just the kids version that's out there. Because all that's doing is just temporarily holding it in place, hitting it with the iron to seal it to stay right there before you can stitch it. But I knew that gluing it down, by the time I got it to my machine, it was probably going to shift on me because there's nothing holding it, right? All I did was slip it underneath and put a dab of glue. So what I did was I took that invisible thread and then I just took a couple of stitches right along the sides here with the invisible thread so you can't even see it. And then that kind of put that in place. And then when I stitch the binding here, that's going to really anchor it down here as well. And so that'll hold all of this in place. So, you know, a little bit of a rough patch there, but I was able to get it in and get it all back. So after that's said and done, I'm going to give it another really good press. I gave it a decent press before I started finalizing it. So you could see yesterday it was kind of really puffy in between because you're just getting it off the embroidery machine. And so it wasn't really laid flat. But once I gave it a couple of presses, it was really starting to look a little bit more like a quilt and not, you know, so bumpy because it was embroidered. So you'll have to press it a couple of times because I would say this probably needs about 2 to 3 more presses before I can really say it feels good. It's getting a little bit softer. It was really kind of tough because it's so bulky and because we used the batting. You know, you've got 2 layers of no-show mesh. You know, there's a lot going on in this quilt. So I did put another layer of batting behind because this is going to be going to a child and I want it to be really soft. So, you know, this is kind of how it went, you know, from one thing to the other. And, you know, and so now this is what it looks like at this stage. And so, you know, I just kind of wanted to kind of show you guys the steps on how it goes from this to that, right? So hopefully that will help out here. But this is where it is now. And now I am ready to go ahead and base it. Now, I do still have another issue. Okay, my little pin is coming off. I'm trying to see if I can poke this back in. I have another issue because I did decide to put another layer of batting behind it. Okay. And because I put that other layer of batting, I have to find a way to anchor it down, right? Because I have that batting in here, if it ever gets washed, I don't want the batting, because it's not anchored, it's going to slide down and be all lumpy inside because there's nothing anchoring to hold it into place. So I have to figure out what can I do that's going to anchor that batting. So in the back, we don't have anything here, right? All we have is the backing that's on here, and there's nothing anchoring down the quilt. So what I'm going to have to figure out is, what do I want to do? Do I want to do a stitch in the ditch and just kind of take this all the way down and just kind of stitch that in here? And then that would anchor down the batting. And then I would have on the other side, if I just anchor the boxes, I'll basically have little boxes showing here. So I can do that, or I can use the invisible thread and do that. But I don't know if this thread would be strong enough. This is a lightweight thread. I mean, it should be fine with this, but I don't know if I want to do that. Or I do have this Americana thread right here. This is a Churchill green color. Let me show you what it looks like. I got this back in Joann's when Joann's was open. And so it's a nice green that really matches well with this fabric. So I think it's going to be a good match for the binding. So I'm going to try to do that. Yeah, Jackie's saying you should do stitch in the ditch, and next time only use one layer of no-show mesh. Really no need for two. Yeah, the problem with that is some of these areas I was a little worried about how dense the embroidery was, and I didn't want to get those puckers. So that's why I used 2 layers of the no-show mesh, and I really did not get any puckers at all on any place in the quilt, which was really happy. But again, yeah, you do get that bulkiness to it, right? So I can try it with the 1 layer. I just don't know if that's 1 layer is going to be enough to handle the dense stitches that go around the applique. But it's something that you'll have to test out, right? Good morning, Connie. Can you show the thread info up close? Okay, so the thread, not sure if you're talking about the invisible thread. Let me know, Krista, if that's the one that you're talking about. But this is the invisible thread right here. Okay, it's extra light. It's a fine weight to it. Okay, so it is really light, and that's what worries me a little bit. It's not a heavy thread. It's a very lightweight thread, so I'm afraid that this may break. The green thread is the Americana quilting thread. It's a glazed cotton. It's 100%, and the color is Churchill green. Okay, this is what the color looks like. Yeah. And then you have the water soluble thread that we talked about. So I'll show you guys that too, in case you wanted to see that. This I picked up from Amazon. And I think we put it in our shop, so you guys can find the link if you're interested. But this is the thread that I think I'm going to be using to do my placement line on the second one that I make of this. So couple things that I'm going to do on my second time around on this is I'm going to give it a try with just 1 layer of the no-show mesh, just to see if it puckers or not. So I'll give that a try. And then I'm going to be using the water soluble thread for the sashings, so that if I need to kind of reline things up, I can. And not have to worry about that placement line coming up and poking through. So those two things I'm going to do. Be mindful of the actual sashing itself. Remember, we went through a couple of choices on the sashing, and I had kind of a busy like fabric. Let me see if I still have it. I think I still have it here. This was one of the fabrics that initially we thought we were going to be using for the sashing. And as you can see, it's a pretty busy fabric. And then on top of that, you had the embroidery on here. And it just wasn't a good fit because it was just a little too busy. Marge said you would use the invisible thread. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Try to do a stitch in the ditch with the invisible thread just to anchor down that batting. The other thing you can do if you don't want to go ahead and stitch in between here, you can also just try going over the cornerstones and anchoring it that way and just kind of hitting the cornerstones that way. But I think that's going to be a little more tedious. So I think going around the boxes will probably be a little bit better. Let's see. Robin says, I used one layer on the Christmas tree skirt by Designs by Juju and it was fine. Okay. Okay, great. So, I mean, I'm going to give it a go to see. But if I see puckering, then I'm just going to go with a second layer on here. But hopefully it'll be good. You put a layer of flannel behind the snips and snail Juju project. Then you stitched in the ditch. Okay. A layer of flannel. Okay. Yeah, I guess you could too. The kids that I'm going to be gifting this to, they live up in New York. So yeah, it's pretty cold. So, you know, flannel. And that's why I kind of wanted to throw that extra layer of batting. I mean, they're really small kids. So, you know, this whole quilt, well, one of them was pretty recently born. So this will be great, especially in the winter time and they start taking them out in the car and, you know, have to take them out. It would be nice. You can kind of just throw this on top of them to keep them warm. So yeah, so lots and lots of little different tips that, you know, was going on. And we shared a lot of them along the way as we were kind of working on the quilt. But those are the takeaways that I have on the project. I like to kind of revisit the end of my projects because I like to take all of those things under consideration. And that's how you can kind of improve yourself going forward. Just take a couple of minutes to kind of look at your project and just kind of think about, you know, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And, you know, what would I like to try on my next go around, right? Because we improve with every different one. So since I'm making 3 of these, got one down, we've just got to anchor this binding down. But then we've got the other 2 to make. I've already started on some of those blocks. So I've got some of the reindeers here that are already done. So we've got here and here, and this is where we changed the color. And I do have the little bird. And then I've got the top of the reindeer on the other one. I haven't done the body yet. So a couple little blocks here and there. And I'm going to be doing these off camera. I'm going to do the additional 2 quilts off camera, and I'll just continue it along so that I can kind of keep working on it on the side, and then we can go into another project. Red on top, green on bottom. Marge is saying, yeah, I guess, yeah, we could do that too. Red on top, green on the bottom. Yeah, I think that works. Why not, right? The other thing, and it's something that you can also think about, is the blocks themselves, the background is white. You could change that background color to be, I wouldn't recommend a dark color, but it'd have to be a really light color, but it doesn't necessarily have to be white. You can also change that background color. That might change the look a little bit. Some people may pick like a little light sky blue or something, you know, a little bit different to kind of mimic that nighttime wintry look to it. So you could do that as well. And then your sashings would be completely different, right? So you can always offset that. But keep sending me your ideas, guys. If you have more ideas on this, we've got a Facebook group out there, and I like to share all kinds of tips and things there. So send me additional ideas if you have something that maybe you've tried that maybe can help me out on here. I really appreciate it. But this is pretty much what we're ending up with. And here's just give you a quick little look here on how big this is. And then we're going to end up just kind of, let me see if I can grab this a little bit. This is what it looks like. And I think it's really cute. Now, if you want to do this as a wall hanging instead of just having it as a little quilt to give someone, you can also kind of put either two little tabs here. So if you have like a little bar you want to hold, this will hold on, or you want to put something in the back, you can also just take a little square. This one is 4 by 4 inch square. You can have it larger. You can go ahead and fold this in half and then fold it in half again. I would recommend it be a little bit bigger, right? And then you would just add this to the back of your quilt here. And as you are sewing your binding, you would anchor this in place, you know, and you can also just kind of have this as a way to kind of hold on to your quilts. You can do that as well. You can do prairie points. You can do all kinds of things to kind of give it a little bit of an extra look on the back. And maybe you want it to have, instead of just a square, you want to do little prairie points. You could do that while you're doing your binding and just kind of put that in place. So all kinds of different things that you can do. You can also embellish on here. So maybe you want to add little buttons and things like that. I don't want to do that because I know this is going to a child, but you can certainly take, let's grab a couple here. Take a couple of buttons and, you know, have fun with it. You can put buttons on the cornerstones here to just add a little bit of visual interest to it. Or you can add any kind of other thing on the actual sled. Or maybe as you are embroidering this, maybe you want to add the person's name on the sled right here. It'd have to be a pretty small font, but you can put the person's name on here. That would be really cool. And you can just add all kinds of things to it. Maybe the person is into a specific sport or something that they like. You have enough space here to put something on the actual sled. Or maybe on the tree itself, you want to add some things on here to make it look like they're little ornaments that are being hung onto the tree, right? So it's just so many things that you can do that you can kind of fix and do on the quilt itself. Quilting with Harriet, what is your recommendation for quilting cotton for piecing on the scan and cut? No fusible on the back. Okay, so for the scan and cut, if you're not going to have a fusible like heat and bond or anything like that, I would first use the fabric mat, but make sure that the mat is clean and it has a little bit of stick to it. If it does not, you're going to have to take like painter's tape or something to anchor it down to make sure that it doesn't shift on you. If you're not using a fusible, that means your fabric's going to be facing up, so you're not going to mirror it, right? Fabric up, no mirror. Fabric down, hit the mirror button, okay? That's a kind of a quick way to kind of remembering that. I would also use, depending on the design that you are cutting on your scan and cut, I would use the rotary blade, because if you use the other blade, depending how intricate your cut is, right? If you think about how the rotary blade works, it's going to go down and drag and make the cut. And if you have lots of intricate designs and no stabilizer holding it together, one, you're gonna get a lot of fray, but then two, most likely that fabric that you have laying down on the mat may shift because it has a harder time sticking down to the mat. So making sure that mat is sticky is really, really critical. You don't want that fabric moving in the middle of it doing the cut. It can still happen whether you use the rotary blade or the other blade, but because of the way that blade works and it goes down and cuts and drags across, the rotary blade, if you think about our rotary cutters, it's just rolling on. It's not dragging the fabric with it, right? So that's why I prefer to use the rotary blade when I do a lot of my cuts on the fabric. But using that is definitely a big plus. Do I recommend Material Magic or starch? I did starch all of my fabrics before I started with the project. So yeah, I would go ahead and starch it. If the design is very, very intricate, I would take out the Material Magic and use that because it makes it more like a paper base, and so that'll make it a lot easier to cut on that. For a wall hanging, you like the idea of the embellishments? Yes, I do too, Sashi. But because I'm giving this to kids, I'm not going to do the embellishments, but oh my God, you can have so much fun with that. There's so many little pieces here and there that you can add little details to, whether it be the sleigh that has a big slate right here, or even on the little gift on top. You've got the gift that has a pretty good size piece here where you can add things on here. Again, also some other people had mentioned when we were doing the reindeer, right? Using a piece of glitter vinyl for the nose. That's another cute idea. Or on the hooves themselves, and you can do this while we brought our designs into embrilliance when we were cutting the applique pieces, but you can also continue with brilliance, and maybe you want to put the initials down on the hooves, or maybe the year that the quilt was made, right? Or on the belly, you can do something like that, or put some text and on the belly here, and you can curve the actual font and go around the belly, maybe with the person's name on here, right? So many different things you can do. It's just really amazing. You can put flowers, you can put names on the little cherries themselves down here. You can put names. You've got a lot of space here where you can add some stuff. So we've already brought it into embrilliance, so you can just go ahead and use that as your embroidery file and just add the font on here. And you can stretch it, or you can, change the size of your fonts. You can add any additional little things that you can make to personalize it a little bit more. I mean, you can just go crazy with this. You also have the little hat on the bottom. So the hat here has a great big space here. You can put the person's name down here, the year, whatever you want on these spaces. So they're pretty open spaces on the tree itself. Maybe you want to put, the last name, or maybe even just on the sashing itself, instead of doing the snowflake, instead of stitching out the snowflake, and maybe you'll want to do this, you'll have to decide if you want to do the middle or the top or the bottom. Instead of stitching snowflakes, you can just put your font, right? Put your embroidery machine has a whole bunch of fonts in there that are built into the machine. So you can add a name on here instead of doing the snowflakes, and that will really personalize it to that person. And you can put, like I would do, the Peter's family, right? Or you can just, whatever you want on this one strip and not have snowflakes on this, right? You would just skip that step and add your font on there. Yes, hot fix rhinestones to make the garland for the tree. Mylar stitched with the star. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That is another great idea. Do I put labels on my work? Connie, this is one of those questions that I should, but I don't. I have to get myself into the habit of that, and I haven't, but I really should. I really should, because then I kind of go back to my projects and I look and say, when did I make this? And I don't. Yeah, Jackie said she always puts a label on the back with the date and who made it. And I should do that. And I don't. I just don't. And I need to start getting into that habit of doing that. So yeah, you're so right. You should put the date on who made it on the back, because then you always go back and when did I make this? And you don't remember, right? So it's just, just something I didn't do. I should do. Maybe try to see if I can sneak it in somehow. Put a tiny little label somewhere, but I don't know. Well, I'll try to see what I can do on this. But this is the end result, and we're finally done. Again, I'm just gonna stitch right in the ditch with my invisible thread, and then I'm definitely going to, yeah, put that label on it. Yeah, I know. Okay. All right. I will put the label on here. And I'll have to kind of look to see where the best spot is, because I don't want to take away from it. But that should be the next session, fabric labeling. Oh, yeah, well, I guess we can talk about that a little bit. Maybe we can kind of touch upon that on Monday, and we'll kind of talk about that. But I want us to get ready, and I have to kind of reset some of the things that I have. And I want us to start on a new project on Monday. So it's Monday and we'll be starting new all over again. Alrighty, so we still have a few minutes left, and let's go over to our inspirational quote of the day, because I want to make sure we get that in. Before we do that, let's see, where did you get Mylar and vinyl for sewing? Is it special for sewing? Okay, so Mylar, you got to be careful with the Mylar. There's all different kinds of Mylar that you can get. I actually have a lot of Mylar from a company called Pearly Gates, and they have a bunch of designs that they kind of have out there, but they have designs that are specific to using Mylar. And yeah, Robin, Pearly Gates, yes, they sell the Mylar, and I just happened to be there and picked it up from them, and I loved their Mylar because it is a very clear Mylar that gives it that shimmer and shine. But they also sell colored Mylar that would also kind of change it up. And I've done, yeah, Krissa, the Mylar from Pearly Gates, I really love that Mylar. It really just makes a difference. I've used other brands of the Mylar, and I mean, it's not that it came out horrible. I just didn't like the shine and the color that it gave to my project. So you have to kind of be careful with the Mylar. I've experimented with all kinds of different Mylars. So I've even gone to the balloon section at the Dollar Tree, and I picked up some Mylar there, and I worked with that. And for some projects here and there, it wasn't really too bad. However, it's not the type of Mylar that I would pick for a big quilt, you know. It's not something that I would use for that. Now, if you guys recall the balloon quilt that I've shown before, that was made out of the Mylar from Pearly Gates, and you can see the shimmer that that quilt has. It's just, it really works well with the fabrics and with the thread, and the shimmer that it gives is really nice compared to other brands that I've seen out there. So I kind of like to stick to the one from Pearly Gates because I think it really makes your project look good in terms of the Mylar. So yeah. I use a simple piece of felt and embroider the info on it, cut around with pinking shears, and put heat and bond on the back of the label and iron it on the back corner of the project. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different, I have actually a book on labels for quilts. You can hand stitch a label on the back. Yep, there's another way of doing it. I mean, there's tons of it. Labels on your work keeps them from becoming moving blankets. I guess, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I just haven't put myself into the habit of doing that. And I guess, you know, I should start doing that. So yeah, see, you guys are making me better every day. I really appreciate that. Okay, so we still have a few minutes and we still haven't gotten to our inspirational quote of the day. So let's do that. Let's switch over because we've got to have our inspiration for the day, right? Okay, so what do we have for today? All right, so for today's quote of the day is, a finished project is just a collection of small steps done with dedication and lots of love. And that's what we have here, our nice little finished project, or will be finished by the end of day today, right? We're gonna go ahead and put the binding in. But that's just, you know, something that we love to do. I think it came out great. I think little girls are gonna be happy to get this. I think it's really gorgeous. You know, it's the embroidery work is really nice, and I like what we did with our fabric selections. I love how I changed the sashing to the red. I think it really did a lot better job than the original fabric choice. But that just means that, you know, just because you make a choice in the beginning doesn't mean you have to end it that way, right? You can change things up as many times as you like and just make it work. Whatever makes you happy, right? Alrighty, so I will be finishing this up over the weekend, and then on Monday we'll talk a little bit about labeling, but I want to talk about our next project that we'll be working on. So lots and lots of fun, and I hope that this was really a lot of fun for you guys to do. So we will be on Saturday again. We have our Saturday Crafternoon, and we're going to have a little special announcement because we're going to change things up again. Yes, we are always changing things around, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that on our Saturday session, and just some changes that we want to do, and I think we'll kind of work a little bit better, and hopefully you guys will be along for the ride. So awesome. Okay, so let's see, anything else that I missed here? Let me just check here. I think I got everything, and yeah, that's about it. So guys, we're at the end of our hour, and I know that we like to support all other YouTubers that are out there, and we've got Power Tools with Thread coming up in just a little bit. So hopefully you guys can join and support her as well. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Really enjoy your days with family and loved ones. You guys have yourself a great day, and I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye everyone.
So long for now, so long. Glad you stayed a while. Hope you liked my crafting style. Hope I left you with a smile. By now, keep your mind and space clutter-free. Hope your day is bright as can be. So long, my friends, till we craft once again. Bye now, stay crafting. See you tomorrow. So long, my friends, till we craft once again.